You know, when this journey first began, you know it. I did not know where it was going to lead me. Another episode of A Dose
Get a
of
dose of
Nick.
Nick. If you ever feeling down, you wanna be around. Get a dose of Nick. Get a dose of, get a dose of Nick. Get a dose of Nick. Get a dose of Nick. Get a dose of Nick.
Welcome back to another episode of A Dose of Nikki. Now today, remember I promised you, we're going to talk about planting seeds of intention. Okay? So, I'm not going to give you a long drawn out story like that, okay? I'm going to give it to you, and you're going to have to check me out the following week to find out the remainder of the story, okay? So here we go. We're going to explore, I'm going to set you up, start your day off. We're going to explore the importance of setting intentions, much like I told you, planting seeds. And I encourage you to reflect on what you want to cultivate in your life, be it a new habit, a relationship, or personal goals. Now, we talked about that last time. I want you to think about that. And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to share my own journey with planting tulips. Yeah, I love them now. I really love tulips. I do, but I never really considered planting them myself until I had a conversation with my garden club. Okay. And so I remember liking to receive them. My husband actually kind of schmoozed me, showed up on my job one day when we first started dating and brought me tulips. And I was like, how did he know? And I said, oh, that's the one for me, baby. He already knew. I didn't even tell him. He just showed up with tulips. And I put them on my desk, and they were absolutely beautiful. And I fell in love with them just as much as I fell in love with him. Okay? Now, I never really considered planting them until I had a conversation, like I said, with my garden club, right? And so they mentioned in the club, in the meeting, that if I wanted to plant any bulbs, I needed to get on it in October so they can bloom in the spring. Didn't know that. So I thought, okay, let's do this. Let's do it. Let's do it. So I picked up a bag of tulip bulbs, and they also warned me not to expect a lush garden from just a few bulbs. Right? And so I said, honestly, the few bulbs suited me just fine because I wasn't entirely sure what I was doing. So I learned that I had to dig deep enough for the tulips to really thrive. And I remember to add like this bone meal stuff to the soil to help them grow. It's similar to how people use this rose tone for roses. So I started to dig deep into the ground. I decided the location of where it was going to be. It's going to be around this tree. It already have the rocks and all this other stuff. So I'm like, perfect. Got the perfect spot. But I didn't know the depth of it, right? I didn't really know how far I had to dig. I didn't know how intense it was going to be with my body being turned into all these positions like I was doing Twister or something, or I didn't understand all that. I wasn't really that prepared. I didn't really know. I just figured, oh, you just pop it in the ground and you go. But you have to dig deep enough so that animals can't smell the bulb. You know, they have some incredible noses, right? So you have to make sure it's dug deep into the ground and then it's covered up. So with all this stuff, it's amazing. And I'm like, thinking to myself, do I really want to commit to this? Because this is insane. And I don't imagine people talking about put more tulips so that you could have a lush garden. And I had like 14 bulbs. I couldn't imagine doing 50 or 100 because I don't know if I would still be here. Yeah, I may have muscles, but I definitely will be probably bedridden for a period of time because this thing was incredible. I'm telling you, I had never squatted so far down. I had never been on my knees that long trying to dig into the ground. I had never been digging and then putting it in a bag. I don't know, maybe my process wasn't really the best process, but this was the best way that I knew. And guess what? I guess it worked for a bit of time. Anyway, I want to tell you about that hard work and the sweating and the bending and the awkward positions. I really put in my time, and that's what they're saying. You're planting seeds of intentions. All right. So after all that hard work, all of that sweating and bending in awkward positions, I looked out my window and there it was, a squirrel. Oh, I forgot about this part. The mulch. So now I'm sealing it with the mulch. Now they did tell me you could put chicken wire over it. This is what I was reading. You can put chicken wire over it so that the squirrels won't be able to touch it or anything like that, right? I'm not doing that. I'm not putting no doggone chicken wire over anything that I plant. That requires more hard work on my hands and stuff. I'm not doing all that. So I'm just going to dig it deep enough so that it'll be okay, right? That's what I was saying to myself. Well, honey, after I finished it, I was proud of myself. I was happy that it was in a location that I could look at, and it happened to be right out of my kitchen window. I can see my work, right? Okay. Well, this one day I looked, and shortly thereafter I planted the bulbs, I look out the window, and there it was, a squirrel sitting right there on the edge of the rocks that are surrounding the beautiful tree, and inside of that dirt surrounding the tree are the tulip bulbs that I dug into the ground. Well, not that one, because the squirrel had the tulip bulb in its mouth. Yeah, near its mouth. No, at this time it was near its mouth. Now you know how squirrels are. They're always on the prowl for something to stash away for the winter. I could not believe my eyes when I saw this little creature with one of my tulip bulbs now in its mouth. I had lost my ish. Had it lost its mind? Oh, had it lost its mind? It must have. Now, yeah, what came next? I know you won't believe this, but I'm going to tell you what happened. Your girl ran outside. I said, have you lost your mind? I was about maybe 10 feet from it. I said, have you lost your mind? Yeah, I was talking to the squirrel like it was crazy. Looking crazy, because I'm talking to the squirrel like it understood me. And maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But I looked at it, I said, have you lost your mind? Because I was ready to go for mine. Are you serious? Are you freaking serious? I'm still recuperating from trying to dig the holes into the ground to put the tulip bulbs inside of, and here you go, getting one of them. So now I feel like all my hard work was worth nothing. Oh no. I said, are you out of your mind? The squirrel looked up at me like, what? And it looked at me as if it knew what I was saying. So I said, I said, what are you doing? And I said, I really did. I kind of did that. You know how you're talking to a little kid, you kind of squat down and you like, what are you doing? Are you serious? And the squirrel looked at me like, does she really think I care? But when I started to chase his little tail and started running up on him, guess what he did? He dropped that bulb out of his mouth. Because let me tell you something. I was chasing that squirrel down that block. I was about to go down there. I didn't have to go that far, but I was about to. In my Crocs, running down the block for the squirrel. I don't care. I don't care. I had passion behind me. Yep, I did. I had passion behind me, and I didn't care. That was when image, reputation, in the neighborhood, people seeing me crazy. No, it was a bat out of hell. That's what I was that day. Yes, it was. But when I started to chase his little tail down the block, determined to protect my hard work, I bet you he figured it out. And he dropped my bulb out of his mouth if he knew what was best for him. So after that little encounter, I realized one of my holes that I thought I had dug very deep was not deep enough. So I had to fix it. I had to fix it and replant the bulb, making sure it was secure this time. And guess what? When spring came, those tulips blossomed beautifully. Oh my goodness. They had a lovely purplish hue and they filled the air with wonderful fragrance. Oh, it was so rewarding. It really was. It was a sight, a rewarding sight after all of the effort, even when I almost lost one, but I didn't. And it reminded me of just how life often presents challenges when we're trying to start something new. So this experience serves as a great analogy for life, a great one. Whether you're launching a business, starting a new career, or preparing your child to go to school, think of that bulb as your goal. Yep, or your seed, whatever it is. They're your seeds. You plant it in the ground, you nurture it, and you provide the nutrients it needs to grow. Now, I didn't tell you all of that I was doing. I would water in my lawn. I was making sure, not during the cold months, but when the warmer months started to peek through, spring was starting to come around the corner, I was able to go out and water it and stuff. I didn't have to put anything else because I already gave it the bone meal, the little nutrients so the bulbs can grow. And it rewarded me. It was beautiful. So you, like I said, you plant it in the ground, you nurture it, you provide nutrients if it needs to grow, right? And consistency is key. Just as I had to ensure my tulips were watered and I cared for it, you need to stay committed to your goals. It's the same thing. And just like my persistence paid off with those stunning tulips, okay? The same can happen in your life. The rewards come from your dedication, your patience, and the right timing. Okay, so I had to put it in the ground in October to make sure that it sprout and blossomed in the spring. So it's the right timing. So this journey into gardening has been a beautiful introduction to understanding growth in all aspects of life. And I can confidently say it has been incredibly rewarding. So, as I wrap up today's episode, I invite you to think about the seeds of intention you want to plant in your own life. What goals do you want to nurture? Remember, every small step counts towards significant growth over time. I thank you for joining me today on A Dose of Nikki, and I can't wait to see what you cultivate. Let's keep that conversation going. Until next time, stay fab, keep growing, and be well, my friends. Be well.